Hey, what's up, guys? It is your girl, Coach LeighAnn, down here at AM Fitness in Plainville, bringing you a sneak peek into our upcoming training phase. So the exercise I'm going to be talking to you about today is called a kettlebell deficit squat. So there is a reason for the name behind it. The deficit is a huge part of what we're going to be doing. So in general, a squat, we know we sit, we come back up, we're here. So what happens in a squat is that there's something called elastic momentum. So when we squat and we come up, what we've done is effectively we've activated our quads and we've kept them active the entire time. So we've used that elastic momentum to send us down and to bring us back up. So what we're going to do with the deficit stance is to actually turn those muscles off and then reactivate them. So with our kettlebell, we've got the kettlebell on the ground. It's between our heels, so that way it is directly below our center of gravity. So if it starts to come in front of us, if I'm trying to squat, number one, I'm not going to be able to keep my back flat, but number two, I'm actually going to use the very small muscles in my back, and I don't want to use those. So it is right between my heels, directly below my center of gravity, as I say. I'm going to allow my knees to come slightly forward, my hips are going to come slightly back, and I'm going to grab onto that kettlebell. I'm going to turn the quads on, I'm going to stand up, I'm going to slowly control it back to the ground, and shut the quads off. So you don't have to wave to me during the phase, but just so that you understand that you're not just tapping the ground and coming back up. You're putting the kettlebell down, you're turning off your quads, and then forcing yourself to reactivate your quads. Because that is where the challenge of this exercise is going to come in, because we don't have that momentum to rely on. We have to actually use both parts of the eccentric and the concentric contraction of the muscle to get us where we need to be. So the thing about this deficit squat is that if we're putting it on the ground, we have to automatically assume that this is our range of motion, and that's not the case. Some of us can squat lower than this, and some of us can't get to this position. So given whatever kind of ankle mobility or hip mobility that we have, we will be able to squat to a certain depth. So for some of us, the kettlebell is actually going to be too low. So if I'm here and I can't quite reach the kettlebell, if I'm now going to round out my back or do something to compensate to get there, then I need to change this exercise. So your hip mobility, your ankle mobility, it can be affected. We can change it. We can increase your ankle mobility. We can give you better hip mobility, but not today. So whatever it is today, we have to work around that. If you are interested in building up the mobility that you have in your hips and in your ankles, we have a number of videos out there, and your coaches are all very knowledgeable about it. So you can ask any one of us, and we'll coach you through it. But week 1, week 2, today, it is what it is. We can't change it. Maybe week 3 and 4, you've been working on it quite a bit and it's better, but for today we have to fit you to what it is. So for some of us, what we're going to need to do is grab a step. So what we can do is actually elevate the kettlebell. So the exercise itself remains the same. I haven't changed the exercise, I've just changed the range of motion that I have to use. So now the kettlebell's on the step, it's still between my heels. I'm still going to squat, but now I don't have to go nearly as low because it's elevated. I don't have to get all the way down there. So this effectively allows me to get my quads active a little bit easier rather than trying to get all the way down if it wasn't my range of motion. So I mean, you may notice, or one of your coaches may notice, that if you're trying to get all the way down here and your back is rounding out, or if you're trying to lead with your butt on the way up, that something's not right, whether it's your range of motion, whether it's the weight of the kettlebell, but that something needs to change so that we have that perfect flat back when we're sitting into our squat. So pay attention to a huge key point here is that we should feel our quads because it's a squat. So if you feel your quads, more than likely you're doing it correctly. There could still be some form changes to make you better, but this is what we want to feel. If we're starting to feel like the hamstrings are activating, if our glutes are taking over for the quads as opposed to just helping us, that's a good indicator that something needs to change, because the back of the body is not the main goal. The front of the body is the front of your quads. So if you want, you can definitely practice that one. Maybe you want to play around at this point to see what your range of motion looks like, so you can kind of, you know what to expect when it's time for the exercise. And again, you can start working on building your hip and your ankle mobility knowing that this is coming. So if you have any questions about any of this stuff, let any one of your coaches know. And we will see you for that training phase.